I had to reboot my whole computer. Is it working? You can hear me now. Oh my gosh. Here I am. All right, where was I? As 15 minutes ago. Yeah, exactly. Hello, this thing on. Exactly. There's something with YouTube Live. Once the mic goes out, trying to get it back on again. It doesn't work very well, but I might have found a different way to make sure the connection is working. But hopefully you can hear. So I'm back. Part 2, Friday Night Live. Yeah, got back into Los Angeles at 2 p.m., raced to the studio, recorded a podcast with Matt Mayoko, where we talk about Deommodore Lenoir, Tight Ends University. We will put up Luke Farrell's interview, George Kittle's interview. Those will be on the next 49ers Talk podcast. We recorded it. It should go up Monday morning. So Monday morning, new 49ers Talk podcast. We're doing one a week for now until we get into training camp. That'll be 2 weeks. So just, there is news. I talked about a little bit on part 1, Deommodore Lenoir. Hopefully it's nothing. It could get thrown out. Still, the thing is, if you're a guy who's making $90 million and you are on your second contract because, you are a homegrown talent of the 49ers, low round pick, and they take care of you. He won the Dwight Clark Award just recently. Just hope that it turns out to be nothing and that, it was a easy lesson learned, hopefully, and it doesn't turn into a suspension at all. We don't know how the NFL is going to treat it, but hopefully it's, doesn't turn into anything. In other NFL news, Justin Tucker, I don't think he'll ever play for an NFL team ever again. The most accurate kicker and opera singer in the NFL, charged with sexual misconduct and I think sexual assault. Don't know the details on that. Just know that he's been suspended for 10 games and he was released by the Ravens, and I doubt he plays again. So hopefully that is the last of the drama for the 49ers during the offseason. It's always tough because the guys are away from the facility. They have, they aren't on a regulated schedule. So sometimes guys do get into trouble. Hopefully it's not a big deal and it kind of gets thrown out. For a misdemeanor count like that, it's going to happen. His court date is going to happen during training camp, and generally he won't have to be there. His representation can take care of it for him. So went through the schedule of Tight Ends University. I did get to see Taylor Swift. She performed at the concert. Kane Brown, Ernest, Nico Moon. I'm not a huge country fan, so not a lot of players. I did recognize some songs, but not a lot of familiarity with the country music scene. What I did see at Tight Ends University, though, is 75 tight ends, big, huge guys that, know how to run block. They know how to pass protect. They know how to catch footballs. Fascinating, though, seeing how each one of the vets, like Travis Kelce talked about guys their size coming into their breaks. You can't go into the break 100% speed. They've got to pull back a little so they're able to change direction and move quickly. So Travis Kelce talked a little bit about that. Greg Olsen talked about, dipping shoulders and like going at defensive ends and blocking in a different way to get more out of it. And George Kittle, always one of the best run blockers the NFL has seen. He does a little mini workshop on run blocking. So it's a good way for guys to bond, to meet each other. And, I think it's great that Luke Farrell was there. It was his first time being at Tight Ends University. George Kittle said, Evan Engram, it's his fault because he's invited the Jacksonville Jags tight ends room every single time. And it's always been Evan Engram. He's come, but it's the first time that anyone else came. And Luke Farrell is going into his 5th year, and he will be with the 49ers. I do think he's going to turn into a much better run blocker. He's a great pass protector. He's gotten great grades from Pro Football Focus. So I think he's going to be, he's going to help out the offensive line. I think also Christian McCaffrey being healthy. Did you guys see Christian McCaffrey's photo that he posted? He looks huge. It was kind of circulating on social media. He looks healthy, and I think he's going to have a huge season. He's also got huge arms and shoulders at this point. What's my favorite genre in music? Gosh, kind of a little bit of everything but country. Is that bad? Um, Now the country songs that are kind of rock-ish, I can get down with that. I'm more hip hop, rock and roll, some pop. Um, but yeah, that's kind of my gig. Luke Farrell is a big dude. George Kittle is also big, but he's more lean. Um, Luke Farrell's a big, solid dude. Very quiet, very soft spoken. Interesting to talk to him and his comparison, personality wise, to George Kittle, which is completely different. George Kittle's outgoing and loud and gregarious, and Luke Farrell's very quiet, and he's just going to do his job, pass protecting. Just saying. Um, so I think it's going to be. I think it's always a good deal for all the tight ends to get in, learn from each other, be able to get tips from guys like, and it's not just Greg Olsen, Travis Kelce, and George Kittle. Logan Thomas was there. Remember when Logan Thomas was in the 49ers? He was there. Rob Gronkowski was there. Dallas Clark. So you get some guys that have been in the league. Jordan Matthews, guys that have been in the league in a long time, and they help young guys, get better at their craft. Huge 49ers reunion. CJ Beathard, Brandon Allen, Mac Jones, Tanner Mordecai. No Brock Purdy this year. He's never shown up for this. I'm sure he's invited. Who else? Charlie Warner was there. Ross Dwelly did not go because he just had a baby. Mason Pline was there. So, just a good group of guys. And I think tight ends are kind of the most fun guys to talk to normally. They kind of have the personality of an offensive lineman, the selflessness of an offensive lineman, the skills and the knowledge of a quarterback or wide receiver. And then, they're pass protectors. They are gatekeepers for the quarterback. So they're fun guys to hang out with. And I think they all had a great time. I also think that when guys like that get together, and this is what, they're together off the field, I think that makes them closer when they're on the field. And this is something that Braden Willis and Luke Farrell and George Kittle mentioned, that during minicamp and OTAs, and this wasn't highly reported, and I'll probably write a story on it, but the entire group, they rented out a movie theater. So like the entire team could go to the movies together. They rented a golf course so all the guys could go golfing together. They did a football camp for kids with Down syndrome. They did a skeet shooting thing along with the Navy SEALs event. So while minicamp and OTAs kind of is, I think for some vets, you're like, oh, here we go again. But they did a lot of stuff to create team bonding off the field. So along with all the workouts in minicamp, we just found out that they golfed, skeet shooted, went to movies, did a football camp, like all these different things, golfing, which I think makes everybody close off the field. So when they get on the field together, they know each other, they know what they're doing, who they're doing it for. And I think when you've got a lot of new young guys on the roster, I think that's really important. So good for the 49ers to have all those events. And, I think it creates a closer team. Both Luke Farrell and actually Mac Jones, Tanner Mordecai, George Kittle, and Luke Farrell, all four who I talked to, talked about Brock Purdy and how he's exactly the same guy. He is an incredible preparer. And this is something that I've noticed. And, Sam Darnold, and everyone's like, how would Sam Darnold learn how to prepare from Brock Purdy? Brock Purdy is incredibly meticulous. And George told me that even at practice, he's one of the first guys to go out there. He warms up his arm, he warms up his torso so he can be ready for practice. And he's a guy that just is a preparation junkie. And guys like Sam Darnold and Mac Jones. Now Mac Jones told me that he's known him for a long time. They use the same quarterbacks coach in Jacksonville. And I've mentioned that in some of my longer videos as well. But he's noticed that Brock Purdy is incredibly meticulous about everything. So when it comes to game planning, when it comes to getting on the practice field, he knows the entire plan. And that's what makes him really good at his job. It's kind of, one of those things. So drop some questions into the chat. Do you have any? Hello, everybody. Let's see. Everything but country is my favorite genre. It's all cool. A little bit everything is a country. Yeah. Yeah, that was CMC. Crazy, right? He does look like Bosa from the shoulders. Wondering if Purdy has felt the need to prep to be a project. He has a chip on his shoulder. I think because Brock Purdy doesn't have the measurables that everybody else believes quarterbacks need to have to succeed in the league, like to be 6'5", to have a cannon of an arm, to be 6'5", 230, all that stuff. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have the strongest arm. He's not the tallest guy. So he does what he can do better. And I think, some guys that are 6'5", 230 that have had everything come easy to them maybe aren't as good at preparation. So, you do everything you can to be successful. But if it's come really easy to you, then you don't have to do as much on the bookwork side. So because it hasn't come as easy for Brock, I think he works harder. And you look at the 49ers roster and all the 5th round picks, right? Deommodore Lenoir, George Kittle, Fred Warner, 3rd round pick, Brock Purdy, 7th round pick. These guys that have been lower round picks do have a chip on their shoulder and they work harder. And what happens is they don't ever let up. They don't take a season off because that's not how they are built. So you get guys like that. Now, Christian McCaffrey, 1st round pick, but he's incredibly internally motivated. So he doesn't need that. He's just got a chip on his shoulder regardless. But sometimes these guys who are later round picks, because they've had to prove themselves over and over again, they never take a backseat. They never take a day off because they have to continually prove themselves. And for the first 3 or 4 years of their career, they've spent that whole time proving themselves. So at that point, do you change your modality? Do you change your methodology? No, yes, 3rd and Juwan, same thing. Blocking guys into the Gatorade, yes. So, you get like these undrafted free agents who end up being running backs for the 49ers, like Elijah Mitchell, like, guys like Jordan Mason, like Raheem Mostert, those guys that have never had anything given to them, they work harder. And it's that mentality that is the 49ers locker room. Yes, there are some guys who have been top round picks, but there's a real kind of, as much as crazy as Jim Harbaugh was, that blue collar mentality in the locker room really is a thing. Now, they might not have really had it authentically and sincerely back in 2012 to 14, but I think this 49ers locker room does really like football. They love football. They want to work hard at it, and I think that's how they get better at it. So, yeah, I think, you get guys like Brock Purdy and George Kittle and Deommodore Lenoir. Yes, we talked about that little thing. But those guys, I don't think Deommodore Lenoir is ever going to take a playoff. I don't think he's ever going to, not come into training camp or, think he's got it because, he thought he had it coming out of college and then he didn't get drafted until late. And then he thought he had it and then he didn't have it. And then, I think at this point on, I think that work mentality has really paid off for him. And I would think it would stay there. And Fred Warner is a worker. George Kittle is a worker. You get these younger guys, that will learn from them. I think it's really important. Let's see. Who won the minicamp competition at kicker? Hard to say. We only saw Jake Moody once. He kicked 7 kicks, missed 1. We saw the other guy, Greg, right? Kick 7 times. He made all 7. So I don't know if it hasn't been won by any means, but I think there's going to continue to be competition. I honestly think it ends up being Jake Moody. I'm just saying. Just my gut instinct is that they keep Jake Moody because he's a 3rd round pick. Thank you, Greg Joseph. I'm like, Greg? 90 guys, 90 names. I'm going to admit that I don't have them all down yet. I think it's going to be Jake Moody. He's changed his kicking style and technique a little bit to allow for more accuracy and a little less power. So I think that's a good thing. He's got an incredibly strong leg. He's got a boot. He can kick 65 yards, 70 yards, but he didn't have the accuracy, which we saw. So for him to change it up a little bit, I think will be good. And I think it's going to pay off. And if going back to look at like guys like Robbie Gould, Robbie Gould had the same two-step kick thing that Jake Moody is trying to do because it gives them a little bit of just that millisecond of adjustment. That's why Robbie Gould was so good. So I did talk to a couple specialists, and they said Robbie Gould could adjust just a little bit to make sure that he hit the right spot. So if the ball came down just a split second late, or if it was a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, he could adjust his swing timing-wise to make sure he was still accurate. When you're just running up and booting it, there's a little less ability to adjust for the ball placement, for if the snap's off or if the placement is off just slightly. So I think those things said, Jake Moody will be able to adjust more with this new technique. So we'll see if it works. We'll see how it goes, but he's been working on a lot, and we'll see during training camp what happens. So what's going on with the 49ers left tackle position? Trent Williams, he's healthy, lean, mean, pancaked a guy in practice. It's Trent Williams. If you mean right tackle, it's Colton McKivitz. If it's left guard, that's competition. Jacob Brendel is going to be the starting center, and Dominic Pooney on the right. Colton McKivitz, left guard, is where there is a little question. I think it's going to be Ben Barch. There's a couple guys that have been practicing over there. I think Spencer Burford becomes the swing tackle. They do think he's a tackle more than a guard. He obviously could pop in there if necessary. But yeah, I think it's Ben Barch at left guard. And I think Spencer Burford is the swing tackle. There are some other guys. Matt Hennessy is a guy who probably will be the backup center. But yeah, I don't think there's a lot of changes on the offensive line outside of left guard. Running back, it's off the Christian McCaffrey. I think the guys who they keep, Jordan James, Isaac Rendo, and I think Patrick Taylor. Patrick Taylor does some work on special teams, so I think that's where the running back group goes. Wide receiver, lots of questions there. Is Demarcus Robinson going to be suspended? Maybe. When is Brandon Ayuk going to come back? Not sure. So it's going to be Juwan Jennings. Ricky Pearsall nicked up hamstring. Hopefully he's back for training camp. He needs reps. He needs reps at training camp. Jacob Cowing. And then after that, I think Isaiah Nair is a guy who you should keep an eye on during training camp. Big, tall, strong dude, fast. I think Tariq Owens is a guy that the club likes. He got injured last year. He has a chance to make a name for himself in this training camp. Jordan Watkins is a guy who really looked good during minicamp. We'll see if he can keep that up during training camp. Those are your wide receivers. Let's see. Do you think they're going to end up extending Colton McKivitz? I hope not. He's mid at best. I mean, maybe. I don't know if Colton McKivitz. You look at the offensive linemen who have left the 49ers, who have gone off and made a ton of money. Jalen Moore, Aaron Banks. A lot of people didn't like them, but guess what? They're making a ton of money with other teams. So I don't know. Colton McKivitz might want to test the market. I mean, looking at all those other guys who made a ton of money. Yeah. You heard Nair was dropping passes during OTAs. I saw him, and he caught several. I mean, it's just going to take time because he's working with a new quarterback that he hasn't worked with before. So he'll get there. But he is big, tall, fast, strong. Let's see. Lack of O-line would be an issue this year, heavily drafted next year. So this year was not a good quarterback or offensive line class. And usually those things go off hand in hand, because if you have good offensive line getting drafted, there's good quarterbacks behind them. So this year, not very many quarterbacks, not very many offensive line. Last year, yes, a bunch of quarterbacks came out, lots of offensive linemen. Next year, it is deeper in offensive linemen. But I got to tell you, this is not a team that goes and drafts offensive linemen in the first and second round, unless it's a guy like Trent Williams. There hasn't been anyone like Trent Williams, and there isn't. And I don't know. I, you know, let's hope Trent Williams plays till he's 40. Let's see who will start next to Warner, Martin or Winters. I think Winters will get. It'll probably be a rotation and competition. There is so much for linebackers, stack linebackers, off the ball linebackers to learn. There's a lot for Nick Martin to learn. So my impression of watching the pre-practice, it was Fred Warner and D Winters hanging out with Johnny Holland. And then Nick Martin was working with all the guys doing special teams, and then he would come over. So I think if you were to start a team right now, it's going to be D Winters next to Fred Warner. But Nick Martin is a guy who they love. This is a guy that people stood on the table for. They love him. He's eventually going to be the starter next to Fred Warner. D Winters will have a chance, but we'll see how it goes. There's a lot of chance for a lot of guys to get some playing time. But I like Nick Martin in his stuffed animal slippers. He came into his first media interview with shark slippers on, and those are what he flew to Santa Clara in. So, yes, I think between D Winters and Nick Martin, we'll see. Right now, I think D Winters is obviously ahead. But when we asked John Lynch during the offseason, is D Winters the guy, this is before the draft, is D Winters the guy that's going to play next to Fred Warner? And he's like, he's got a chance. That does not sound like confidence to me. It sounds like he's got a chance. So, I think the fire has been lit under D Winters because guess what? They drafted Nick Martin. And he's a guy that they really like, good in coverage, good hitter, little bit smaller guy. So we'll see how that goes. Let's see. Hate how a top tackle dropped into Casey's lap. You mean Jalen Moore? They paid a lot of money for him. The 49ers were never going to pay Jalen Moore that much money. But, happened. Any word on Malik and his Jair on the bubble? Malik Mustafa, the word is that he's not going to be ready for training camp. So, but I did see the video that everybody else saw where he was running very quickly. When I saw him at minicamp, he was not straightening the injured leg all the way, which means there's still rehab to be done. Now, when he was at Wake Forest, he injured his ACL in January in the last game, had ACL surgery in January, and played week 1 and played the whole season. But then he got injured. So the 49ers want to protect their investment, and that I think means he's going to have a little bit more extended time off because they don't want him to hurt himself again. ACLs are rough comeback, and it takes a long time, especially wide receivers and DBs, to come back from ACL injuries because they need to have that change of pace, change of direction ability, and explosiveness. So he looked great. My inside track on Malik is that he'll be back before a full year. He looks great. He was hanging out with safeties. So we'll see. Jair Brown, is he on the bubble? This is a position it's in flux because Jason Pinnock came in, Richie Grant came in, and those two guys played really well during minicamp. Jair Brown kind of lost his touch in his second year. But sometimes when guys have a tougher second year, they come back with a vengeance. And Jair Brown is a mature guy. This is a guy who's still Steve Wilkes. And this is another thing. Steve Wilkes stood on the table for Jair Brown. Jair Brown came in. He had a great rookie season. That was when Steve Wilkes was the defensive coordinator. Steve Wilkes is gone, and it's a different defensive coordinator. So he doesn't have that same support. Maybe he doesn't have that same mentor, that same role model. So then he doesn't play as well. So now he's got Robert Saleh, and he's got, of course, Daniel Bullocks has been the constant throughout the whole thing. But you know what? I think it's hard when you lose your mentor. If Matt Mayoko stepped away and I had, didn't have that type of role model mentor above me, it would be a lot different. So, when those type of positions move on, it's tough for a player. It's tough for anybody. So I think Jair Brown will play better, but I do think that competition from Jason Pinnock from the New York Giants, Richie Grant, both those guys played well during minicamp. So it's an open competition, but we'll see how Malik recovers. So we'll see about that. Simmons in the draft. I'm not sure what you're asking. Trading for Ramsey would be great. I don't know. How much game time does Jalen Ramsey have left in him? I'm not sure. What's the deal with Alfred Collins? Yes. Alfred Collins is a concern for me too. Alfred Collins has not been on the field at all, not one day, not rookie minicamp, not doing anything, not even doing running work with the training staff. Everybody else at minicamp was at least running or doing some sort of work with training staff on the side field. We have not seen Alfred Collins working out, doing anything physical at all yet. Hopefully it's just a calf injury that I have a calf injury. It's a calf injury that he suffered in his pro day. He has not been able to come back from it. I'm sure that they are offering it all kinds of treatment, but we have not seen him do anything, nothing. That has me slightly concerned that he's not going to be ready for training camp. Maybe he will be. Maybe I'm completely wrong. But generally, we see guys working on the side field during team drills. I saw Ricky Pearsall run. I saw Marcus Siegel run. I saw Curtis Robinson, ACL injury, Malik Mustafa. Those guys were all working out with the training staff. I have not seen Alfred Collins do anything. Not one thing. That does worry me. So, Alfred Collins. Yeah, apparently there are only 2 second-round picks that are signed in the entire league, which is crazy. So yeah, we'll see. I think all the second-round players are wanting more guaranteed money, so we'll see what that leads to and whether that ends up happening. Wonder how much that plays into standing on the sideline. I don't know if not being signed has anything to do with him not being working with the training staff. I mean, there's no reason for a guy. The only reason to not be signed and not participate is team drills. You can always work the trainers. This is going to be your training staff for the next 4 years. You want to get to know them. You want to have them help you get physically fit, ready for the season. So I don't think it's about not being signed. You got to yes, not being signed, don't do team drills, because if you get hurt, then you're screwed. But you work out with the training staff. There's no reason why you wouldn't. This is your new team for 4 years. Get a workout in. That's just my personal opinion. Let's see. Oh, Simmons, that was projected as top tackle. Yes, had injury. I wonder how he's going to do. But that tendon, that patellar tendon, is an incredibly tough injury to come back from. So yes, he did go to Kansas City. I see what you're saying now. Drake Jackson had the patellar tendon injury, and he's not with the team anymore. He's not signed. Weston Richburg, center, the best center I've seen. I mean, that was part of the big free agent class when John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan took over. Weston Richburg. I mean, go watch his tape. George Kittle said, no offense to Jake Brendel, but Weston Richburg is the best center I've ever worked with. Weston Richburg, patellar tendon injury, he had to retire. Mike McGlinchey has it, and it still hurts him to this day. So I just don't think that would have been worthwhile. But, they've been bitten in the butt by that patellar tendon, so I don't think they do it. Jason Pinnock as a baller, I think he's going to be a starter for the year. Yeah. And then, depending on when Malik comes back, Jair Brown had an ankle procedure during the offseason. He looked like he was fine. He had no brace, no support, nothing. He was walking around hanging out with the safeties during minicamp, so he could be fine as well. Thoughts of the NFL collusion case? I don't know. I haven't done enough research about that to talk about it. So let's see. Shamar Stewart wouldn't stay at practice because his contract situation. Well, yeah. Again, not practice, but get your workout in. You've got to lift. You've got to work out. These are going to be your training staff. I just think Alfred Collins should get a workout in with the team and work out with trainers, especially if they're going to help you rehab your calf. I don't know. Just my thoughts. I would like them to rehab my calf. you guys have any other questions? I've been on here for half an hour and then 10 minutes before that. So I'm going to call it a night. Get some rest. I'm glad that my sound got. I'm just not touching the microphone. Hopefully the sound is good. It's just further away from me. Let's see. Will the 49ers need to find another cornerback to stand in for Demo? I don't think so. It's a misdemeanor. Hopefully I don't think he's going to get suspended. He could. It's obstruction of justice and kind of prolonging the investigation of a gun being in a car. Someone threw him the keys to the car and then he threw them to someone else. Wouldn't give them to the cops. Just gave the keys to the cops. Let's see. This should be a weekly thing. Okay. Friday Night Live. Are you guys all awake on Friday? Not doing anything and just hanging out at home next to a laptop like me? So happens when you get old. I think we dodged a bullet by passing on Stewart. Passing Stewart. Let's see if Flora was part of the news with Pablo Torres. Okay. All right. I'll check it out. Yeah, there's also the was it Shador Sanders caught speeding over 100 miles an hour twice in 1 week? Crazy. All right. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comments after I post this. But it's been a half an hour, so I'm going to call it a night. And maybe I'll do another one next week, or maybe not on Friday, maybe on Thursday. I don't know. We'll see. But thank you guys for hanging out. Subscribe, like, and yes, I think we're going to end up loving CJ West as well. He's got a ton of attitude and a ton of energy, so I think it'll be fun. All right, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend, and I will talk to you soon. All right. Bye.